Hey guys, and welcome back to another video from some dev dude. Today we're going to be continuing on with our SQL Injection series, and the lab we're going to be attacking today is using a SQL Injection union attack to retrieve interesting data. So, covering up on the last two labs, we've discovered how many columns are in the original query, and then we figured out what the data types were for those two columns, also the columns that are being returned. This is important because, again, covering off on SQL unions, the queries that you are combining together have to have the same number of columns and the same data types, and they all must match. So whether you have two queries that you are joining the results set from, or however many you can go up to, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, they all have to have the same number of columns and the same data types for each column. Knowing this and doing a little bit of recon before we try and retrieve information, we can actually discover where we can actually start pulling information from. So this is where this lab comes into. So if you have a look at an example, we have an original query that returns two columns, both can hold string data. And the injection point is a quoted string within the where clause, and the database contains a table called users with the columns username and password. So you probably wouldn't know if the table is called users, you'd do more recon on that. But we can use this and use the example text below where we inject union select username and password from users, and that will append the information of username and password to the original query so you can see that information. And this, again, allows us to find a way in to gain access to the admin console or anything like that. So we're going to jump in. We're going to open up the lab in a new tab. And we're going to click on Access the Lab in a new tab. And we're just going to open Burp Suite as well. And while that all boots up, we're going to read the description. So this lab contains a SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. And I knew that was going to happen. The results from the query are returned in the application's response, so you can use a union attack to retrieve data from other tables. To construct such an attack, you would need to combine some of the techniques you learned in previous labs. The database contains a different table called users with columns called username and password. To solve the lab, perform a SQL injection union attack that retrieves all usernames and passwords and use the information to log in as the administrator user. So, 4 key pieces of information here. We are attacking a different table called users, and they have the columns username and password, and the final piece is that we're attacking someone called the administrator user, as well as the fact that we're attacking the product category filter. So we have the lab open here. I'm going to copy the URL, and I'm going to go over to Burp Suite. It's going to, again, temporary project, use Burp defaults. And we're going to use Burp Suite proxy, turn off intercept because we want to just have a bit of a dig, and we're going to open browser. And then once we've had a bit of a look around, we're going to return and look at the HTTP history before choosing a request, send over to repeater so we can modify the request and keep sending it over and over again. And here we are, we have the Chromium browser that Burp Suite have open. Just going to go to the target URL and just enter in the keyring password. Close restore pages. And here we go. Just as it loads, we have another shop front, and we have the refine your search functionality, which adds the categories. We're just going to click on accessories, and we can see that a different page is loaded. That's what we're going to do in terms of exploration. We know where the attack is, or the vulnerability is. We're going to head over to Burp Suite and look at the HTTP history. You can see, again, all pretty much standard. We have the resources from PortSwigger that adds the top little section, but we know the vulnerabilities in category, so this is the one we're interested in, this request right here. We're going to send that to repeater. Almost clicked on repeater. And it's going to make this bigger for us. And here we go. So a bit reminder of a repeater is, repeater allows you to modify requests and send it multiple times. So I could just add something here and keep sending it over and over again. But what we're interested in is performing a SQL injection union attack. So following on from the last videos, we're going to enter in a quote plus union plus select, and we're just adding these pluses because remember pluses signify spaces. And the first thing we're going to do is figure out how many columns there is. So we're going to type in null and dash dash to cancel out the rest of the query. And if this works, we'll get a HTML page back. If not, we'll get an error back. And we have an internal server error, so we know there's more than one column. Null again. Whoop. And we know that there is 2 columns because this page is returned. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to find out what the data types are. If you were doing a proper attack, you would probably note this down just so you can come back on another day. But since we're smashing it out today, I'm going to write out A. Okay, so we know the first column is a string. Just to be clear, we're going to set back to null and set A again. And the second column's a string. So where does that leave us? We know that we're getting 2 columns, both string values. And we know that we want to grab the username and password field from the user's table. So we are going to type in select username plus password plus from plus users, where username equals, and it was administrator. And let's see what happens. Send it. Internal server error. So I've probably left an error there somewhere. Let's try that one. Send. I have made a mistake of talking while I am typing. There we go. Such a silly mistake. Okay, so we've got our response back. We've seen our HTML page. We're going to render this one out. Make this a bit bigger for us to have a bit of a squiz at. And we can see up the top here, we have the username administrator and password running right at the top. So we can make the assumption that this is the password. We're going to copy it. I can't copy it in here. I can't copy it from repeaters UI. Let's see if I can just quickly find the code. There we go. I can copy that. And then we're going to head over back to our Chromium browser, click on my account, dump the password in there, and administrator. Just fill in that and delete the SQL injection from earlier. Click log in. And we have access and we have solved the lab. So how does this work? We have the expected input, or this expected query of select name and description from products where category equals gifts. But we put in our own we modify the category filter and add union select username, comma password from users where username equals administrator dash dash. But when we put this in, we create the actual query to be select name description from products where category equals gifts. And then we union that with select username and password from users where username equals administrator. And that, as you can see, returns the username and password of the administrator account, thus giving us the ability to log in. Thank you for joining for another video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section below. And I've also started streaming. At the moment, I'm going through the Bandit course from Over the Wire, helping explain some basic Linux concepts and learning as I go. So if you want to follow me on Twitch, the link is in the description below, or it's twitch.tv/somedevdude. Thank you and see you in the next video.